calamities. Honestly, I don't know any other word. These terrible, terrible events, they're going to happen here in America. And this is not an easy read. It's a lot better of a read than the book of Revelations, though, because it has a more positive tone to it. But it's a difficult read. But this is what's coming if we don't accept the fact of reality, of the chemtrails in the sky, of the geoengineering, of firefighters that were putting out these fires in California and in other places throughout the United States saying, we've never seen anything like this. Of course, the media will not tell you what these firefighters are actually saying because they don't want you to know. They've never seen anything like it. They cannot put out the fires. They said, these fires are like nothing we've ever seen. And you want to know why? Because they are literally filled with aluminum. What is being sprayed in our skies is aluminum, barium. I know those two for sure. There's a few others that they're putting in there. And what they do is they shoot radio frequencies through the air to manipulate the currents above us, to change weather patterns, and to actually, they can actually push tornadoes and change hurricanes. It's the truth. You need to actually go to geoengineeringwatch.org because it has all that information on it. But this is the truth of what's going on today. It's in our scripture. Prophets have talked about it. Apostles have talked about it for literally decades, and we as members of the church just refuse to listen to it. We continue to vote for people that enslave us, that are going to put our children into debt for literally centuries, and we're so stuck on social justice stuff when we should be focusing on the core, the Constitution, the literally the core of the law, instead of all this frivolous stuff. I'm serious. And I don't care what anyone says. I'm not saying that racism and bigotry and prejudice and all this stuff, it doesn't exist. Of course it exists. It's always existed. But the Constitution is there so that each man has equal rights. That's it. I don't want to really get into that because we don't have time. Here's a wonderful book also. This was written quite a while ago by Farley Anderson. I've met this gentleman. I've gone to one of his not book signings, but it was kind of like a book signing. Anyways, his lectures. It's called The Book of Revelations for Today. It's awesome. It breaks it down verse by verse and explains what's coming. And it's frightening. And yet, members of the church, I don't even think, to be honest with you, we have even 3 months worth of food. I really don't. We probably don't even have a couple days worth of water set aside. And you want to know what's coming on right now? And of course, the media isn't going to tell you. The financial system is beginning to crack. And they are huge cracks because they never fixed the problems in 2007, 2008 when they bailed the banks out. When they literally took our money as taxpayers and gave it to the banks, right, to prop them up, even though they were betting 1,000+ to 1. I mean, it was just a casino game up there, and it still is. And they're about ready to collapse again. Deutsche Bank is about ready to collapse. There's countries literally on the verge of collapse right now. Of course, they're not going to tell you until it hits. And then the bankers are going to come in as saviors, right? After they've devalued our money and put us into the poorhouse. Things are not getting better. They're just getting worse. All you have to do is do a little bit of research and a little bit of reading. Stop believing the mainstream media. And Trump, what has Trump done? Honestly, what has he done? Has he been honest about what's going on as far as weather manipulation and weather warfare? No. Is he telling you what's going on in the economy, like the real economy, not the fake numbers they keep putting up? No. I'm not saying he's part of the conspiracy. I really don't know. But the fact of the matter is those who work around him, a lot of them are. Like Barr. William Barr. He was in charge of Epstein. And what happened to Epstein? He accidentally committed suicide in his cell. Yeah. Accidentally from what? How? No, he was murdered. Just like everyone else was murdered that starts to investigate anything to do with the Clintons, anything to do with the Obamas or the Bushes. They all get axed. That's how it works. But the media is just complicit with it and they won't tell you. Here's the book that explains exactly why the American form of government is the perfect form of government. There has not been and will never be until Christ comes a better, basically, blueprint for a government that is the least oppressive, that is the most prosperous. This is a phenomenal book if you read it. It's also written by Cleon Skousen called The 5,000 Year Leap. It explains our Constitution. There is no left-right paradigm like they try to explain to you today in school, even at universities and in the media. No, the leftists and the right? You're either conservative or you're liberal. That's not how it was. How it really was anarchists on one side and tyranny on the other. And the republic that we now know today as America, which at one time there was no such thing, it was just an idea. It's supposed to be right in the middle, where the people have the most freedom, but there's also responsibility. The least amount of tyranny, but the least amount of anarchy. Just enough freedom that people can live their lives as they choose, right? And enough laws that, basically there's order, but not tyranny. And this book explains it. It explains how the branches of government work. It explains the proper role of government, the proper role of the executive branch, the judicial branch, the legislative branch. It's completely out of control now. Now the president just does executive orders for everything. And we just think it's just like normal. It's not normal. A lot of the things that are going on today, it's not normal. And I'm just here to give a warning voice, literally. That's all I wanted to do about this video, is we have to truly wake up. We have to go at this like a child and say, what if I'm wrong? What if maybe Brady's telling the truth? And it's not just me. I didn't just make this up and just learn from it, without someone else leading the way. There are so many pioneers, so many quote-unquote prophets, not religious prophets, but people out there warning us, trying to tell us this is what's going on and we need to stop it. And yet we're completely apathetic. We don't want to do anything about it at all. When Chris Stewart, our representative from Utah, comes to Cedar City, do you know how many people show up? Less than 20, because I've been there. Nobody shows up. Nobody cares. They barely go out and vote. And when we do vote, we vote for people that just make empty promises, and because we don't understand the proper role of government. We have a whole bunch of oppressors, and then we have the mainstream media telling us that it's social justice issues, that it's the white man, it's Trump, it's this, it's that. When what's really happened is like The Creature from Jekyll Island. Great book. It's the Federal Reserve, it's the Rothschilds, the Vanderbilts, the Fords, the Carnegies, all these rich families that got in together, and they're the ones that actually control the finances in the world. They control the IMF, they control the World Bank, they control the Federal Reserve. They're on the boards of the biggest banks in the world, like Citibank and Goldman Sachs and there's a few that I can't remember, but I really wish we would wake up. And to be honest with you, this book on Amazon, this is kind of like the linchpin of understanding what we need to understand. This will explain it all. This is why Ezra Taft Benson told members of the church to read this book. Do you care about your children and your family and their future? That's really what it comes down to. We have to pay the price now in order to elect people and to stop this tide. But unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be stopped. That's not really what this video is about. I've tried to talk about this for years, and yet nobody really wants to listen. Because I understand it's a bummer. It's depressing. It's not a fun topic to talk about. But when are we going to really talk about the real issues, reality? Who is the one that's lying to us? Who's the one that is slowly enslaving us? The economy is just about ready to break down, and watch what happens. Watch what happens. It's going to be bad, I'm telling you, and I'm not telling you when. But I've read a lot of books, one of which is this book right here, and it explains what's coming our way. They've enslaved us through the financial system, and we don't even know it. And soon we're going to be on our knees asking them, whatever you do, just help us from this. Just help us from this. We're in a terrible situation because our country is literally overrun with debt now. Our children, it's impossible to even pay off at this point. And our debt has just only gotten larger since Trump's gone in. See, it doesn't change. It doesn't matter who's in office. It never changes because the real players are the banks, and we don't want to talk about it because mainstream media says that anyone that talks about it is a kook, is a conspiracy theorist, is a wacko. If that's true, then Ezra Taft Benson was a wacko, and I'm a wacko, and all this stuff is just made up. and I just like, basically just pushing fear onto people. Or it's because I'm trying to warn you and I want what's best for you and your family. I want true freedom. Security comes with freedom. But all we want right now is security. You can't have that without freedom, and we're just losing it every single day. So it's time to stand up. If you have any questions at all, I would love to answer them. I'm not encyclopedia for all truth, but I know, because I've read these books, I know that this is true. I know what's coming if we don't acknowledge the truth and repent and return to the Lord and say, Lord, help me understand the truth. Help me to read and not be so afraid that, that I can't handle it. Eventually we have to make a stand, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm not going to do another video for the rest of the year. I'm just done. I'm too busy. I've got so much going on, just like everybody does, but this is the last video that I'm going to do. After that, it's on you. What you decide, if it's the same old thing, if that's good or bad, it's none of my business. All I know is I know that I have to give a warning voice. It's time for me to stand up. I've been trying to stand up and educate people, and all I get is, you're a conspiracy theorist. That's ridiculous. If that were so, they'd tell us. That's the biggest excuse that I hear. The doctors would tell us if that were true. There are doctors telling you, but the media just doesn't tell you the message from those doctors. They only give you the message from the doctors that are either bought, paid for, or are just ignorant, flat out. They don't tell you about the scientists that know the real data. And that's what we do. Our representatives would tell us. Mike Lee would tell us. Chris Stewart would tell us, right? Romney would tell us. I'm telling you. Ezra Taft Benson was trying to tell you. When are we going to listen? We need to find out for ourselves. Don't let others choose what it is we should believe. We need to seek it out, just like converts of the church do. Seek out the truth. Don't be afraid of where it comes from or how it comes. Open up your mind and be open to the truth, even if it contradicts what you believe. I'm not 100% right. There's a lot of things that I've changed my mind on since I've basically since I've become awake. I'm not saying that everything that I know is 100% true, but it's 90% truth. And I hope that you can search out the truth too. And for that, I'm out.